thought I'd record a short video to talk about how I've been going about growing microgreens. So they're basically just the shoots of a plant, really. They can be peas, kale, sunflower, radish, a whole variety, really. They're just basically the seedlings of various plants, and they can be very nutritious. They're also very easy to grow. So I'm going to focus on peas today. So you can buy them at your nursery or sort of in Australia, Bunnings. These I've just ordered online on eBay because I've just started to grow them in higher quantity. So first step, soak your seeds. So here you can see that I've just put them in a bowl. These have been soaking for about around 12 hours, just under actually. And that's the first step. So soaking your seeds is important because it greatly accelerates the germination process. So once you've soaked your seeds in water, you just need to sort out a growing container of some kind and sort your medium out. So look, you can keep things really basic. As you can see here, this is just a propagation tray, a seedling tray. I've even used sort of old strawberry punnets, sort of the packaging you get with that from your supermarket. You just use what you've got. You really don't need much space because you're growing them, as you can see here, in very dense, compact kind of formation. So you can use for your growing medium soil, obviously, so just potting mix. All you need is about an inch high, even potentially even less. Some people even just grow them in water. But I prefer to grow them in some sort of medium so that the roots can actually bind in and becomes just a bit easier to maintain. What I have here is not soil, as you may notice. It's actually called vermiculite, which is sort of a mineral. It's very good at retaining water. I'm just using it because it's what I have. I was using it for a few other things, a little hydroponic setup. But like I said, I've used soil. Just use what you have, and preferably, use organic soil if you're using soil. And yeah, you really don't need much because a lot of the nutrients are within the seed. So these microgreens aren't really going to draw upon a lot of nutrients from the soil itself. It's more just a medium for the roots to move through and bind itself to. So just about an inch would be plenty, and instead of putting it all the way through, I just put about 3/4 of it first, line it up in the tray, and then just spray it with a bit of water, just so that when you do add the seeds, that they stick on there. Yeah. Okay, so you can see I've put a layer of pea seeds there. They've soaked up a lot of water. And as I said earlier, this really speeds up the germination process. And you'll notice it's really densely packed. Of course, this is not what you'd normally do if you were planting them to actually get peas. We're planting them specifically for the purpose of getting these microgreens here. So it's fine that it's really densely packed, and peas tend to be very forgiving in terms of sort of how they grow and around issues of mold and so forth. Not really an issue I've encountered. So yeah, you can pack it in really dense. Try to avoid them being on top of each other, but yeah, they can be pretty close to each other side by side. And then just add a thin layer on top of this, of whatever your growing medium is, whether it's soil or vermiculite. And you can even use coir. Yeah, just to cover it, because the seeds like darkness when they're sprouting. So you can see they're all covered up. You don't need to be meticulous about it, just as long as there's a thin layer covering most of the seeds. And then just give it another spray. Again, just with some water, just to moisten that top layer. And then you're good to go. So like I said, nature is amazing. these seeds have all the nutrients that they need to germinate. They're not really going to need any additional nutrients from here on. It's just a case of watering. So what I do for the first few days, and this is when it's germinating, is just to leave it in a really dark spot. So some people, like if you're growing a lot of these, you can just stack them on top of each other. Oops. Just to create an additional layer of darkness. You can even cover it with a cloth. And this is just for the first few days, really. And just within a day or two, because you've soaked the seeds, you should start to see them sprout. So you should start to see roots and shoots starting to come out. They'll pop out of the surface here. And that's totally normal. You don't have to do anything. Just say spray with a little spray bottle like this a couple of times a day. But that's about it. I'd say, perhaps once in the morning and once in the evening. You don't need to fidget around too much. Just let it do its thing. My recommendation would be to leave it in a dark place. So for instance, I have it in just a shelf that in a room where the blinds are down most of the time, so it doesn't really get much natural light. And the reason you do this is because for the purpose of growing microgreens, you really want these shoots to grow tall. So you want them striving for light. It's a bit mean, but effectively, by keeping it in a dark space, you're forcing the shoots to go up in search of light. And keeping it that way, I'd say for, between 5 to 7 days, in my experience, yields good results. So the shoots will be white and they'll have yellowish tops because those first leaves are starting to come out. And you can just leave it like that. They're fine. And after that first week, you can start to expose it to light. So it doesn't need direct sunlight, just filtered light from a window. You can just even keep it in your kitchen top. It's really not fussy at all. And yeah, you will start after that first week of, it germinates, sends shoots and roots. Once it's got those first true leaves out there, they'll start to green like this. So this is pretty much ready to harvest right here, right? So you can see by starving it of light initially, it's sending they're very leggy. So it's sending those shoots up looking for light. But the benefit of it when it comes to harvesting microgreens is that it makes it very easy to harvest, right? So it becomes very easy to just snip them off from the base here, and you get more crunchy shoots for you to eat. Yeah, so in terms of watering for the first week, it's just misting it twice a day, and you just want the layer on the top just to be moist. That's it. There afterwards, now you'll notice that my main sort of growing setup here, it just has a little tray here. There are no holes in this tray, so it can hold water. So after that first week, once the shoots are a couple of inches tall, and this happens really fast, right? So this is in the second week, so like day 8, 9. You can just add a little bit of water to the base here. When I say a little bit, you're just looking at maybe a cupful, and that'll be enough for a day or two. I find I'm not really that fussy when it comes to this, and like I said, peas are pretty forgiving. So in terms of harvesting, dead simple, right? So you're just trying to go as low as possible. I take my time with this. I don't have sort of copious quantities here, so I just take my time. Make sure you have a clean pair of scissors, snip, and just collect them. Pretty satisfying. Yeah, and these I've let them grow quite long. You can see, you can really harvest them whenever you like. And yeah, I guess the thing with microgreens is to just try to have multiple batches. So if you kind of looking at a turnaround of 2 weeks, to get it to this stage, then you can plan accordingly. And I try to have multiple trays going at different stages, so you can kind of get a steady supply. So of course you can snip your microgreens and use them on demand, which is what I tend to do. But if you want to store them, you should be able to store them for at least a week. I have them in a kind of a reusable, a resealable bag here, with a bit of tissue at the back to absorb moisture. And that's the key tip I want to give you, is that you don't want to wash your microgreens. So that's the reason you want to grow it in as hygienic a medium as possible, and you want them to grow nice and tall so you can snip them and not get soil on them and things like that. If you don't wash them, they have a much lower chance of getting moldy, so they keep for much longer. So try to avoid that. That's it. So enjoy your microgreens with your salads, your sandwiches, your soups, your curries, stir fries. It's a great way to add a bit of extra crunch and flavor, and of course nutrition. Very easy to grow. Let me know if you have any further questions. Love to hear how you're going with growing your own.